Last time on Cucumberfeet, I made a loose framing analogy comparing all parties involved to the major factions in World War II. Zoe Quinn makes a video game about being sad. Fans consider it the Rebecca Black's Friday of video games, while critics pretend to like it.
It's Friday.
Zoe's ex reveals that she slept her way into good review scores, which the media pretends didn't happen and calls gamers sexist. Anita Sarkeesian starts a Kickstarter to raise money so she can create YouTube videos about how women are helpless victims. And Brianna Wu makes one of the worst video games of all times and blames gamers for not enjoying her game.
Look at the detail on that bike. Oh my god.
Will the three pillars, games, journos, and the mainstream media be able to defeat gamers for good? Or can gamers prove that was never the point of GAMERGATE in the first place? Find out in this episode of Cucumberfeet.
There's only two type of men in this world, steers and queers, and if you're allowed within 150 feet of a school, no wait, that's not, no, hold on. A 10 hut, you better drop in, give me 20 or else I'm going to suck your dick. No wait, that's not, something about uniforms just really bring out the gay in me. Reminds me of my dad. No wait, that's, so with the pieces now in place and the pillars ready to finally take action against the autistic having, beard not shaving, greasy, Cheeto dust covered, incel living in parent basement, sexist, pure source of all the modern evil, Chad's so giga they make betas look sigma, gamers. So just to recap with our three protagonists, Brianna Wu has failed at making a video game and starting the first all-female game dev studio by hiring her husband, and is currently looking for something to give her any kind of source of popularity because she's $400,000 in the hole. I need to learn that even if you offer nothing in return, if you complain enough, simps will give you money, essentially creating OnlyFans. And Zoe was recently exposed by the Zoe Post for sleeping her way to the top of the gaming industry. Well, probably more like the middle, lower third to maybe like for the first quarter of she slept her way to the first quarter of the game industry. And the focal point of this stage of the Zoe saga was Nathan Garrison, who was a freelance writer for Kotaku and Rock Paper Shotgun at the time. So why don't we continue from here? I mentioned before that the United States of America, aka the mainstream media, have a penchant for skewing facts to fit their narrative. So here's what I mean by that. Nathan and the super left-leaning, has every socio-political take you would expect a mega corporate overlord to have, Kotaku. They would state that the Zoe Post claimed that Nathan had given favorable review scores to Depression Quest, but in fact, Nathan had never even reviewed Depression Quest for Kotaku. I could see why Kotaku would try and distance themselves from these allegations, though, if found true, not only would, they be exposed to the fans as being all these evil things they had thought the games journal industry had been corrupted with, but they would also be exposed to advertisers who might want to second guess giving the company money for breaking all of these journalistic ethical standards. So that became the narrative that the games journalism industry decided to run with. That greasy, dirty incel man children, who also so happen to be our actual market base, who are angry that a woman, a beautiful, brave, multicolor-haired woman, would dare to have sex, which, of course didn't affect the release and review of her game at all. No, I mean, let's not look into that. Okay, moving on. And that's what Gamergate really is here. It's to gamers, and I guess the people being called, members of this Gamergate movement, it was, we are tired of, all this BS nepotism and BS from the, review scores for these games that like just aren't that great. Like Call of Duty gets a friggin' 9 every year, which mechanically it's a decent game, but some years it's just boring as shit. Especially like in modern gaming. I mean, like look at all the games I mentioned before. I mean, they all just at launch were terrible experiences as a consumer, and then yet they get like a 9 from IGN. It's like, what are we doing here? And then on the flip side of that, you have games journalism, and then the mainstream media who's completely clueless, so chiming in with the games journalists, essentially just kind of trying to paint all gamers as racist and sexist. It's such a tired narrative we keep seeing over and over again. Like, how many people need to be called Nazi before we just run out of Nazis? There isn't infinite Nazis. Eventually, you just keep using the word Nazi and then it just loses all meaning. The truth behind the word ceases to exist, right? And you could say the same thing with sexism and racism. What does that even mean these days? What does it mean to be sexist? Does that mean that I don't like someone based off their sex? Or does that mean that I don't agree with you? Trust me, I should know, because I hate women. Mostly I hate myself, though, so there's also that. The whole Gamergate movement essentially got boiled down into the age-old saying, girls rule, boys drool. I mean, that's really how fucking simple it was. It's so stupid. It's like, yeah, even that, I mean, yes, there actually is some truth to that. There are, guys do drool. I mean, we are freaking morons. We're stupid. There's a lot of us that are creepy and weird and gross, and then women are pretty awesome. I mean, they have great tits. They give babies. They smell nice. They make sure you don't spend more money than you're supposed to. I guess they're basically just parents to me. Women, the parents I've never had. How sick would it be if I just hung myself on camera with this cord? Okay, maybe that was a bad joke. Let's move on. But here's the thing, ladies. You can also be pretty gosh darn creepy. Okay? Look at, the divorce culture, which is like, essentially, if you're getting divorced as a man, as long as the woman is hot, she's just going to take everything you own, or at least half of it. I mean, good luck seeing your kids again. And listen, this isn't me trying to I'm not a men's right activist. I think that's stupid too. So I'm not picking sides here. My point is that you can't just generalize people and then assign blame to them based off things they have no control over, like gender or race. When you start failing to tell the difference between what is a truth and what is the truth, I think you quickly start accusing parents and children of horrific school shootings of being actors.
Oh, it's so much fun! Oh, yes, the New World Order's going down!
Listen, is it true that Nathan never officially reviewed Depression Quest? No, that part is true. But he did feature Zoe and or Depression Quest in 3 articles and 1 video that year without any indication in any of those things that they had any kind of prior interpersonal relationship. One of those articles, in fact, is detailing the 50 indie games you need to play on Steam right now, which Depression Quest was like the lead cover story of. They used that as the cover of the actual article. Also worth mentioning, Nathan did not disclose that he actually had worked on the game as a beta tester. He was part of the frickin' staff of the thing. Stephen Totilo, then editor-in-chief at Kotaku, would release an editorial that would deny the allegations against the company and Nathan. But on a completely unrelated note, just 1 week later, Stephen then had to edit 2 articles with another writer at Kotaku, Patricia Hernandez, for not disclosing that she was friends with Zoe as these articles were covering her. So at the same time, we have games journalists in the mainstream media recanting their truth of Gamergate, which is that gamers are racist, sexist, homophobic pigs that are mean online. Gamers would use Zoe to dig their heels in the sand and state their claim to what Gamergate is, and their truth being that games journalism is frankly unethical. Though there would be dissension in the ranks of games journalism, the thing about blindly following ideas is that if you're not an ally, you're an enemy. The following was written by a freelance game journalist after he decided to hand in his resignation, which truthfully probably was more just him. He just stopped answering emails because he wasn't actually a full-time employee. Take this with a grain of salt, because towards the end of this thing, he does come off, well, a little salty, which means one of two things to me. He is either A, emotionally involved, so his views are going to be skewed and biased, or B, he's trying to sound tough in front of his friends. Been writing at a gaming site for over a decade now. I do it as a hobby because it allows me to write about something I love while still keeping my job as a journalist, because my hours are flexible as a games journalist, so I can pop a news article or game review in my off time at work. Anyway, this whole Zoe Quinn thing has put a lot of sites on high alert. I brought up the whole thing with coworkers at the site I work at. They just dismissed the issue. When I pressed the issue, the implication, goddammit, quickly turned from a dismissive hand wave to a very threatening, talk about this anymore and you will be fired. I've been talking to some writers at other minor sites, and this seems to be happening on all points. Every site is towing the line because they are very afraid of what this might mean for the industry. And I use that term loosely because games journalism industry is to journalism industry where sitting in kiddie pools is to Olympic swimming. They feel that if the game industry were to suffer a schism of infighting due to this, the integrity and credibility, which is funny because they already had none, of games journalism would evaporate immediately. That's why there's this air of we must remain united and hold the line. Anyone who breaks formation is a traitor who must be exterminated. 4chaners would claim that games journos would create a targeted harassment campaign against gamers by creating the hashtag describe gamers in 4 words, which I guess could be true. Journalists would definitely partake in lambasting gamers with this hashtag. It honestly seems a little far-fetched to me though. I mean, just given how unorganized angry mobs are, I think what's more realistic here is that somebody made a hashtag and it so happened that gamers and Gamergate was already in the zeitgeist of internet culture. It was already being talked about, so this thing just got popular, and then games journos and the mainstream media decided to partake because their ideas are anti-gamer. Either way, fun was had at the expense of gamers, and damn it, why don't we have some fun too? Hashtag describe gamers in 4 words. Actually, it's called ephebophilia. Oh my god, just say pedophilia, you freaking weirdo. No one cares what the actual term is for whatever. Disappointment to friends and family. I'm a cuck that cares about what my family thinks. I play video games. I mean, honestly, any other answer is overcomplicating things. That's extremely fair. Losers from 4chan. Someone who plays games. For people still peeved at my hashtag describe a gamer in 4 words, that was white boys, white noise. That's awful. You should die. Here's another. No sense of humor. Great. Video producer at Giant Bomb, the worldwide leader in games entertainment. Stick to video producing, man. Words are not your thing. Disgrace to the ponies. Ponies are gay. You should. A piece of shit. Wow. Really creative. I'll apply tomorrow, mom. That one was pretty good. Petulant child. Future inmate. What does that even mean? What are you implying there? That gamers are somehow going to become violent or sexually violent? Like, what are you trying to say here? Like, are they nerds or are they future, like what, like pedos? Like, what are you trying to say? Just be more clear. That one sucks. A normal human being. I understand you're trying to fight the good cause here, but that one also sucks. Do not write things for the public to read. Smoke weed every day. Not bad. Egg account harassing women. He/they, Prince of Cilantro, age 33, available for Pricely Adventure, also known as CC, they/them, and X. You aren't known as anything. Nobody knows you. Nobody cares. Shut the fuck up. Like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Not bad. Doesn't care about race. Doesn't care about gender. Doesn't care about you. Nobody loves you. You are worthless. You should die. Never touched a boob. Well played. Arrow in the knee. Some sort of smiley face. That was pretty cool too. You know, these rage-filled misogynist pieces of shit gamers don't even deserve 4 words. F them. Well, you gave them a lot more, you moron. Why don't we click on your profile here? Raspberry Béarnaise. Oh, really? You're gonna put an accent aigu like you're some kind of French dork in your fucking name? Oh, you post kittens. How original. Man. Wow. Your feed looks like internet in 2003. You're posting kittens. How cool and original. Thankfully, you bring so much to the world and social media. I am so glad to have bumped into you, Raspberry Béarnaise. I'm a gay anime. I don't know if that's pro-Gamergate or anti-Gamergate. Either way, it made me chuckle. This hashtag is retarded. Completely agree. Casuals. I don't know if you're pro-Gamergate or anti-Gamergate. It's kind of hard to tell with your dumb flags in your name. Is this person Panny by Under the Horny S Yakuza? Unfortunately, mixed into a lot of these tweets were actually from games journalists themselves, and just days later there'd be like this fallout of all these people that worked for these gaming journalism industry companies that would have to publicly apologize for being fools and not wanting to get fired. Zero backbone. Love it. Oh, what's that? Gamers are misogynistic and sexist? And then as soon as you call them out days later, you retract because you're scared of losing your job. That's how you know these people don't actually agree with anything that they're saying. It's just what they think people want them to say. All right, so multi-part tweet coming. Apologies in advance needs to be done. While I've never said anything in my shows, content, tweets, blogs, etc. that I do not believe at the moment, I wrote/said its choice of words is important, and in too many instances of late, I could have chosen better. Being passionate about certain things means you occasionally going to get angry about things, and in anger, sometimes you speak inartfully. I did. You spoke inartfully? What are you, a fucking painter? Shut up. Language is not that cool. You write about video games for a living. Nothing you do is done artfully. You have no value. Neither do I. I'm a YouTuber complaining about things because I can't actually make things myself. We're in the same boat. So don't make it sound like I'm attacking you, but you have never done anything artfully or anything of value. Neither have I. We are both queefs, so please, shut up. Honestly, it's not worth reading the rest of that. Next one. Let's move on to the next one. I repeat, hashtag Gamergate. I was wrong. I improperly judged you without thinking of my actions. I hope you can forgive me. And then someone replied, it's already been dealt with. Blah, 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 whoever is tweeted out an apology. I've just received a call from my editor. You win, Gamergate. If I speak ill of you again, I will be unemployed. Hashtag sorry. Okay, here's someone that was replying to hashtag I stand with JonTron. JonTron was mixed up in this whole debacle, of course. I won't rest until every game with a cis male protagonist lets you cut his dick off and watch it flop around in the dirt. What? You won't rest? What does that even mean, you won't rest? That doesn't mean anything. You're tweeting this from a phone that was made in China by children. Shut the f up. Really, this is your moral compass? This is where your moral compass goes off. It's gamers, really. That's who you're angry at. Not Chinese children making everything you own. That you don't care about that. And as the war with gamers raged on, Anita could not help but thrust herself into the spotlight. Granted, neither can I. After seeing the wave of love and support Zoe was riding from receiving all those death threats and threats of whatever, Anita would start posting screenshots of her own death threats. Like this. I'm going to kill your parents too. I've seen their house. But instead, I'll drink your blood from your cunt after I rip it open. Oh, Anita, you're so beautiful and sexy. You know that. I'm going to kill Johnny too. He's a fruitcake. I think Johnny was her boyfriend at the time or something. I'm going to your apartment at Redacted and R-word you to death. After I'm done, I will ram a tire and iron up your cunt. In fairness, that's actually pretty funny. All I want is for you to be mine, my love. I want to caress you and taste you. I want to f your hot pussy. It's actually pretty funny as well. I want to bite the side of your neck and drink your blood. I'm going to rape your cunt with a pole. Hey, Anita, I want to taste your sweet pussy.
Look at this thing. I mean, someone did a real deep dive on this screenshot of her Twitter account at the time. She completely erased the search results. Like, why would you type something in a search and then completely erase it? The account is an egg. Look at all these. I mean, the screen cap was taken 12 seconds after the previous tweet, and they're all tweeted in like very rapid succession from one another. If you look at the timings here. And then, like, I mean, if you read through all these tweets, I mean, they all have perfect punctuation and perfect spelling. Is that indicative of like someone who's like going on this rapid fire rant of like giving death threats to Anita? Just none of it makes sense. None of it adds up. That's not the MO of someone who'd be writing things like this whatsoever. That's the MO of someone trying to fake it poorly.
This was clearly a fake death threat written by Anita so she could drum up love and support for herself. How goddamn disgusting of her. But what about this one? Account created 5 hours ago, screen capped 5 hours ago, account mysteriously removed right after posting. But what about this one? Account created 6 months ago, only 3 posts, then suddenly 6 hours ago they began again, only for Anita, which was screen capped exactly 6 hours ago as well. Account also mysteriously removed directly after posting. Okay, well, what about these ones? Police. If you keep getting threats for your work, why don't you stop? Me, incredulously. Because I believe it's important. The local police departments I have talked to this week have little to no idea how to deal with credible threats made via online channels. That said, federal law enforcement does seem to take online threats more seriously, at least. Okay, what about this one? Some very scary threats have just been made against me and my family. Contacting authorities now. Oh, there's this one too. I'm safe. Authorities have been notified. Staying with friends tonight. I'm not giving up. But this harassment of women in tech must stop. One way you could support feminist frequency is becoming a monthly sustainer of our non-profit, femininefrequency.go fuck yourself. All of it is fake. She fakes screenshots. She refused to take pictures of these alleged police reports, which, you know, people would actually call the police stations to find out that she never actually made them in the first place. This really makes me question 4chan's involvement in this whole thing. I mean, did they ever send these death threats and threats of whatever to Anita, Brianna, and Zoe? Like, did that even ever happen? You know, when you start faking things like this, it's like, well, now it makes me question everything. I mean, hold on. Did hashtag describe gamers in 4 words actually come from media? Is that where it actually, was it actually a psyop created by the games journalist industry to fight back against Gamergate? Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm diving too deep into this. Oh, wait, but then look what happened in this 24-hour period. Mysteriously, there was this seemingly targeted campaign against Gamergate. All these articles, look at this one and this one and this one and this one, all calling for the end of gamers. I mean, if it wasn't clear before, this here to me is like a clear, organized push to try and, you know, signal boost and shape people's ideas of what Gamergate really is. But we have to be missing something. What could be the connection in all of this? Maya Felix Kramer. Maya is a PR consultant for Silver String Media. During an IRC conversation with a YouTuber named Camera Lady spoke with Zoe's ex Aaron, who confirmed that the woman Zoe had cheated on him with, as described in the Zoe post, was in fact Maya Felix Kramer. Why does that matter? Why would it matter that this completely innocuous woman, Maya Felix Kramer, slept with anyone at all? Who cares? Well, here's where our web of lies continues to grow. Maya worked PR on Depression Quest for Zoe, as well as many other well-known indie games. Maya also works for a mainstream activist PR firm, Silver String Media, a group backed by Anita Sarkeesian. Silver String Media and or Maya had direct or indirect connections with all of the publications through working relationships that published articles on that day which ran that narrative of the end of gamers, including a public Google forum where they and members of the Silver String staff discussed toxic gamers. Maya was also having sex with Brandon Boyer. Brandon Boyer was the chairman of the Independent Games Festival, or the IGF, which is like E3 but for indie games, or some sort of contest. It's a pretty big deal for indie games, okay? If you took a look at the winners and finalists of all the awards from that year, 2014, you would start to notice a pattern. Maya and Brandon would have some sort of connection, whether that be Maya directly working PR on these games, or Brandon and Maya having a night out on the town with the game devs themselves. It seems like the IGF, not unlike games journalism as a whole, was running a pay-to-win model. So to recap, Maya is having sex with Zoe. Maya works for Zoe and other devs. Maya also works for Silver String. Maya, through Silver String, has influence at major publications. Maya is also having sex with Brandon, who is the chairman of the IGF. Most of, if not all of the winners/finalists were either friends with or worked with Maya and Brandon. Silver String CEO Lucas Johnson and their CCO Andrew Wilson both wrote on multiple games that were finalists at the IGF that year. So if this end of gamers narrative was a false flag operation run by the media, then what the hell was hashtag describe gamers in 4 words? And this is how conspiracy theories get started, folks. It blows my mind, the web of lies and corruption around something that ultimately doesn't matter. And if people are so willing to bend the truth here, then why wouldn't the government place bombs at the bottom of the tower to create the greatest false flag event in human history in a power play between Afghanistan and Iraq to illegally, at the very least, unethically expand our empire through NATO and push out our enemies to the east? This isn't me telling you that Tower 7 had a satanic pedo sex dungeon underneath the Pizza Hut in the food court being run by interdimensional vampires.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
What I am saying is, why did Gamergate even happen? I mean, how did the truth spiral out of control so quickly? I mean, look at the flowchart somebody made. You have to look at, imagine trying to keep up with all these connections. I mean, it got so overly complicated. They had to make an updated version of it too. This is, I mean, it's all the data is right here. Everything we literally just talked about. This is complete insanity. Over what? Over what? Reviewing video games? Why are we even talking about this? And it didn't stop there, where there was an open letter signed by 600 game developers that had a call to action to, quote, speak up against harassment and threats of violence. Like, what does that mean? How does digitally adding your name to a list have any impact on the world whatsoever? What are we talking about here? How do you expect to stop violence by typing your name into something online? Listen, I know my whole thesis is that everyone's truth is reality, and like you can't deny anyone's truth because truth inherently has no meaning because it's completely interpersonal to the person telling it. But I mean, like, truthfully, like how self-centered are people to think that they're actively causing change by just typing their name into something online? Like, do something with your life, please. It's a completely self-serving proxy gesture so you can assure your peers at brunch, which isn't a real meal, by the way, that you're on the right side of some moment in history that you will immediately forget about as the next round of bottomless mimosas arrive at your table. F you and f your brunch. Getting drunk and eating pancakes doesn't deserve its own mealtime. You're eating eggs at lunch and getting wasted on sugary nonsense. Have a beer, you queef. And of course, someone combed through this list of developers, and it turns out that like 69 out of 100, nice, weren't even game developers. Say what you want about Boogie2988, about being a fence sitter and just kind of a generally a, you know, it's just annoying because he never really has an opinion on anything. He's just trying to make people happy. He threw up his own petition in response to this bogus piece of baloney, and it ended up getting like 10 times the amount of signatures. Celebrities would have to get involved too, because of course, what would a cause be if it wasn't being perpetuated by some Hollywood elite who is the framework for this quasi-social credit system we currently live in by the way of social media? Even Adam Baldwin had to get involved, who I actually don't know who that is. And then on September the 3rd, 2014, something truly magical happened. It's like waking up to presents on Christmas morning when you're 6 years old that are the size of your torso, or finding out that father won't be joining you this year because he decided to drive home drunk from the bar last night and accidentally killed 4 people in a vehicular manslaughter, and so you won't be seeing him for the next 15 to 20 years, depending on which state you currently live in. And Anon on 4chan decided that it would be a good idea for everyone to start using the hashtag #NotYourShield. It was a way for women and non-white gamers, essentially, to spread the word that they don't agree with this doctrine that the SSJWs had been spreading, that gamers are sexist, disgusting pigs of human beings. Because, you know, the SSJWs, I mean, it's the whole thing's insane. Like, they're doing all this, this whole counter Gamergate movement was supposed to be done on behalf of, you know, like minorities and women. But what actually ended up happening is like, well, you were just calling out gamers in general this whole time, though. So it's like you also included women and minorities in that, and then now you're saying you're fighting on their behalf. So like everyone was like, what? No, you've like literally been talking shit about us for the last year, and now you're gonna pretend like we're on the same team? Oh, f you, not your shield. How dare you try to Captain America me? If that's not a term, that should be.
Plot and vote, you see, I'm strapped and I'm daring you. You ain't gotta be a Marvel superhero, but you can get Captain America.
The hashtag was pretty great. You could see all these posts here, but it also led to like one of, I mean, I didn't actually know about this picture until I started doing research on this, but it's now probably my favorite picture in the history of the internet. Look at this thing. Look at this guy. This guy's a freaking champ, dude. Being gay doesn't really show up in a picture, so here's a big black dildo. I am not a sock puppet. I am a gay gamer, and I support hashtag Gamergate. I am hashtag not your shield to bully gamers with you. I can't read the rest. It's a little pixelated. Is that gay fan art up there? Hell yeah, dude. That's my freaking spirit animal, man. I love that picture so much. I might actually print that out and get that freaking frame behind me. It's such a badass photo. In comes our final piece of the puzzle. If Zoe and Anita weren't enough of a menace, we have Brianna Wu. Whoa. If Zoe Quinn invented the wheel to grifting and Anita was the one that created the first automobile, then Brianna Wu is the AI controlling your Tesla, slamming it into the median at 160 miles per hour because some autistic Russian child decided to take control of not only the steering wheel, but also the dash cams of your car. So he, I mean Z, because he's trans, by the way, wants to leak your final moments onto the dark web where you're begging your sister for forgiveness for finger popping her when she was 9, because you're Lena Dunham in this analogy.
AR built like Lena Dunham. When I shoot, I don't miss.
My point is that Wu is the worst, or I guess possibly the best, at sucking the teat of sympathy from the media. If you remember, she is trans, so the whole idea of her claiming being victimized for being a woman from Gamergate may very well be stolen valor. Wu would take things to the next level. Instead of just faking death threats like Zoe and Anita, she would essentially go on a press run that just so happened to line up with the release of her failed video game, Revolution 60.
We're going to go back to the beginning. Joining us to share her story is game developer Brianna Wu, who has been the victim of harassment. Hello, Brianna.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Completely unrelated, I'm sure. She would end up going on to HuffPost Live and end up debating Eric or Frederick something or other. It's not important. His nickname is Hot Wheels, which is the coolest name considering the condition of his limbs. Hot Wheels was the creator of 8chan, and essentially the debate would be she was either trying to or in the middle of suing 8chan for receiving death threats from 8chan and saying that 8chan should be like legally liable for the threats made against her life. If those death threats were real, which I mean, it's so hard to tell at this point, then obviously terrible, awful thing. Do not condone that whatsoever. But you know, it's a website. So, you know, like, why would they be legally liable for what other people are saying on it?
You need to be blaming the individual users. 8chan is well within the confines of the law. And as far as any threats go, the ones that were reported to me, I did not see any posted on 8chan. The only ones that were posted were on Twitter, and we have no proof that they're even the same user. I would say to Miss
let me
Wu,
respond to this. This is ridiculous. You've got to
Brianna, I want to let you respond in just a second. Just let Eric finish. He's almost done. And Brianna, I'm going to come right to you.
Thank you.
all right, I would also say to Miss Wu that if she was really so scared, she would have went to the police instead of tweeting. That's all.
Okay.
An asshole.
Let's go through this one more time. You know, I need to tell you, before I was a software developer, I was a journalist. And one of the most important classes I took, in college for journalism was communication law. And I think Frederick is delightfully oblivious to both the legal choice. In fact, he tweeted and bragged about this, about making a choice to not keep IP records because there's no law that requires him to keep IP records of people that use his site. So he has made a choice difficult for the police to hunt down these people. So let's not pretend like he's an innocent bystander here. In fact, he's opening himself up to massive civil liability because I can't go after his site, or at least it's very difficult. He makes it very difficult to do so. So he's not understanding that he opens himself up to a massive amount of civil liability for defamation. And these other things right now, all of that liability is now on Frederick's shoulders. And, I encourage anyone out there that is targeted by these people to, these laws that protect people's reputations.
As far as her saying that we are required to moderate every single post on the site, that is complete nonsense. She should look at the Communications Decency Act, Section 320, which protects the right of website owners and the users on the site. So I don't have the exact snippet in front of me right now, but basically it says that website administrators are not responsible for the content that their users post. That's why things like Facebook, Gmail, everything we enjoy on the internet today can exist.
Before Google was going to open themselves up and allow people, YouTube rather, before it was owned by Google, was going to...
Case closed. Hot Wheel takes P1. Brianna, learning her lesson from her past interview, decided that her next one would be a solo affair to avoid any further embarrassment in a debate.
I'm joined today by Brianna Wu, who is head of development at video game developer Giant Space Cat. The topic of discussion today is GAMERGATE, and if you have not been following this topic...
Unfortunately for Brianna, and I guess also the interviewer David Pacman, she forgot that she is a freaking psycho that is just chasing clout status. So when the Pacman gave any little sort of pushback against her take on the whole GAMERGATE thing, she completely imploded because she wasn't being treated like a Ukrainian refugee. And to all those watching this video in the future, all 32 of you, I'm sure, Ukraine used to be a country run by neo-Nazi paramilitary groups until it was completely turned into nuclear glass because the US and Russia couldn't decide who deserves to steal their resources the most, ultimately kicking off World War III, where our one true king, Xi Jinping, single-handedly defeated the dastardly superpowers and freed the globe by uniting us under a one-world government, grouping us into social pods, welding us into our assigned homes, replacing our eyes with the newest version of Oculus Quest 12, and enforcing state-run homosexuality. Anyways, back to the Woo. During the interview, like I mentioned, Pacman would push back against Brianna's shitty ideas, and she did not take it well.
Would you still be willing to be on with him and clear the air?
What I'm willing to do is, he had a list of questions that he wanted to ask.
Yeah, he said 7 of them you didn't like, but that otherwise they were okay.
I have to tell you, I feel like this is kind of a hit piece that you're doing on me right now, to be honest.
Whoa. Let's talk about that. Hold on a second.
Well, in a moment. I want to answer your question first. I feel like you're really putting me on trial here.
No, by no means. By no means. I think that that's an unfair allegation.
Okay.
During that same month, on September the 17th, 2014, then editor for Breitbart, a pre-canceled Maya Yiannopoulos, would release an expose leaking top secret, well, I mean, it's games journalism, so how top secret that could it be, a secret email list between industry professionals. This version of the article is quite a short read, so honestly, I'm just going to read the whole thing. Expose, the secret mailing list of the gaming journalism elite. Several prominent gaming journalists across America are part of a secret mailing list on which they discuss what to cover, what to ignore, and what approach their coverage should take on breaking news, Breitbart London can reveal. High-profile editors, reporters, and reviewers from heavyweight gaming news sites such as Polygon, Ars Technica, and Kotaku use the private Google group mailing list, which is called Gaming Journalism Professionals or Game Journos Pro, to share industry-wide attitudes to events such as the revelation that developer Zoe Quinn had a sexual relationship with at least one prominent games journalist, a journalist who had mentioned her and her products in his reporting. Emails seen by Breitbart London from August of this year show Kyle Orland, a senior gaming editor at Ars Technica, discussing the Zoe Quinn scandal. He wrote, quote, "I do not want to, in essence, reward the jerks doing this by giving their, quote, issues any attention at all. I am not even going to give the bullshit journalism ethics excuse for these attacks the time of day." Orlando continued, quote, "I would love to use my platform to reproach this kind of behavior, but that would go against Quinn's valid and understandable desire not to have this personal matter publicized by the media. Maybe we should just stick to Twitter to boost this signal on this one, rather than our own front pages. Maybe we should just use this as an excuse to give more attention to her work. I know we've been meaning to review Depression Quest since its Steam release. The site of journalists not only engaging in activism on behalf of their reporting subjects, but also discouraging other reporters and editors from covering stories of interest to their readers will be disturbing to many in the industry, who have long suspected a persistent bias and unusual levels of cooperation and coordination from senior journalists. In emails seen by Breitbart London, Ben Kuchera repeatedly pressures other journalists and editors to take down material on their websites that is critical of Zoe Quinn and to close down debate about her role in video game industries by removing comments and forum posts by members of the public asking questions about journalistic priorities. Jason Shearer, a senior writer at Kotaku, can be seen defending Nathan Grayson, the journalist who admitted to beginning a sexual relationship with Zoe Quinn just days after he mentioned her in his reporting and linking her to her game Depression Quest. Also on the secret mailing list are James Fudge, James Fudge, managing editor of GamePolitics.com, and Mike Weiner, maybe Weiner, also double nice, a writer for the Daily Dot, the unofficial Apple web blog, USA Today, and Yahoo, demonstrated that the list has influence within mainstream media as well. And yeah, I mean, like, just reading through the document myself, I mean, it is pretty clear that there is like a concerted effort between the games journalists to not only like suppress certain information that doesn't fit their narrative, but also to signal boost things that, you know, may not necessarily be correct to get just like the general population that could care less about gaming, let alone Gamergate, on their side of the argument. Not everyone agreed, though. There was actually this sentiment of a small portion of people in that email thread that were very uncomfortable by this because they felt like this was completely breaking the journalistic ethics code. You can even see it in that article I just read. I mean, they're talking about signal boosting things on Twitter instead of, like, you know, directly doing it through, like, there is like a concerted effort to skew things in their favor and build their narrative instead of doing what journalism is supposed to do, which is be unbiased and unethical and just report on the news and let people decide, make their own decisions on how they feel about things, just given all the facts. That's what journalism is supposed to be. You're supposed to provide me the facts, and then I, as an individual, am supposed to develop my own thoughts and feelings about things because I am a human that has a higher sense of, you know, understanding than a fucking dog. And dogs are awesome. I love dogs. I'll let them lick inside my mouth. I'm a big dog. That makes me sound weird. This wasn't to disparage dogs. Essentially what happened is, like, the entire games journo industry picked a side in this battle and then decided to just bury their heads in the sand and pray to God that when they pop back up, everyone was on their side.
Dad, this is stupid.
Stanley, there's no time for your immaturity. Do it!
Milo would continue to leak these articles at Breitbart exposing more of the games journalist industry, as well as this one article that actually, like, it wasn't specifically mentioned, like, you pay me this much and I'll give you a positive review, but, like, they were discussing how much game devs were paying them for positive reviews. So, I mean, like, just another smoking gun that kind of proves what Gamergate stood for initially, which was not being sexist. But just remember, if you're pro Gamergate, it has nothing to do with ethics and standards. All it has to do is with how much you hate women and what a piece of shit you are. In October, I can't really tell who started this campaign. My suspicions would be 4chan, honestly. Someone starts a campaign that targets games journalists, advertisers directly. I mean, you could take a peek-a-rooney at the emails here. So here's one from Alan Hormis responding to someone. Good morning and thank you for reaching out. University of Advancing Technology, UAT, ceased advertising on Game Sutra as soon as we became aware of there being an issue with negative journalism. Having one of the oldest game programs in the nation, we are very sensitive about this nature. If there's anything additional I can offer, please let me know. Thanks again. Here's another one. Dear Anon, thank you for emailing our CEO, Paul Pullman. That sounds like a made-up name. He asked me to look into this and reply on his behalf. I'd like to reassure you that although we used Polygon in the recent past, we do not have an ongoing commercial relationship with them and use them only on a one-off basis. We have now removed them from our supplier list and will not be working with them in the future. Thanks for bringing this issue up. This just in, on the KIA stream, an NVIDIA employee said they were considering pulling ads the way Intel did. Email NVIDIA now, #Gamergate. Dear whoever, this is from Intel. Thank you for voicing your concern about Intel RealSense TM technology ads that were recently placed on Game Sutra site. Our ad placement coincided with recent technology launches and campaigns, and we were using a purchase order made much earlier this year before Game Sutra's recent controversial articles were published. Our ads were not a reflection of supporting certain article stances or shifts in the editorial positioning. We have since decided to pull current ad campaigns off Game Sutra. Thank you for letting us know your concerns. I mean, they just go on. There's many more. I just think that's a scummy move that kind of ruins things for everyone because, I mean, like, in the eyes of advertisers, everybody has enough skeletons in their closet to have your advertisement taken away from you. They're so fickle and they have no backbones of their own. So, like, when you start fucking with people's money, I mean, it just kind of, it spoils the water. It's like you don't shit where you eat. You're spoiling it for everyone. And it's like these advertisers are going to be much less likely to give people money in the future for doing similar things. Like, they're just going to be way more cautious about everything now. And it's not to mention, it's like, I'm sure, yes, there are bad apples at these games journalism publications, but I'm also sure that there's a bunch of people that do deserve to be there, and now they get punished for it. And even moreover, it's like, you know, families like depend on, you know, income, and it's like, should we take away money and jobs from like games journalists because they're shitty? Like, do their families deserve not to eat? I don't think so. I mean, what they did wasn't ultimately all that egregious. I mean, they lied about reviews. Like, it's video games, who cares? If you're excited to read IGN articles, then you should probably kill yourself. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you might have brain damage. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you may have been born with autism. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you're probably gay. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you should be making sweaters in a factory. If you're excited to win IGN articles, you don't deserve an iPhone. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you have never played a sport in your life. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you should have your eyes removed. If you're excited to read IGN articles, you should be milked by the state for your cum because you don't deserve it. If you are excited to read IGN articles, then fuck you. Like, the same thing happened with Ethan from H3H3 when he started, pointing the finger of his fans towards what's that energy drink that sucks? Gamer juice. What is it called? G Fuel. He was telling people to contact G Fuel, basically contact G Fuel and tell them to dump Keemstar as one of their sponsors. And they did. And then, Keemstar's family had to suffer for that. I mean, I'm sure they were fine at the end of the day. But then, like, a year later, he made some kind of comments about the gay community, and then he got his ads. Like, so it's a cycle, and it's now just gonna happen to everyone. Like, you set a precedent, and it's stupid, and I don't like it. A good analogy actually is nuclear deterrence. If everyone has nukes, then nobody launches nukes, because as soon as one person launches a nuke, then potentially everybody else launches a nuke, which will turn the entire world into a hellscape. Gamergate would kind of just eventually fizzle out. I mean, there's no real like good ending to the story. The FTC would get involved in, I think, 2015, kind of like a year after everything happened, and they actually did make changes to regulations that are directly affected by Gamergate. So some positive did actually end up coming out of this. There was a Law & Order SVU episode about it, which I have never watched Law & Order in my life. I had no idea how shitty the writing and acting was on that television show. My lord, oh my god. It's Revolution 60s level bad. I'm not even joking.
They're campers.
What's a camper?
Lazy creeps that just hide behind stuff, don't engage, wait on you to run by and shoot you in the back. They're all pieces of crap. They are not noobs.
Noobs?
Short for newbies.
Yeah, that's my short. Go home, gamer girl.
What the hell is your problem?
You and your boss. Reina Punjabi only got this feminazi game made by being a slut.
What happened?
These guys, they just can't stand women in gaming.
What did they do to you?
Fun trivia fact though, Logan Paul was an actor in that episode, a young Logan Paul.
Not like shooting a video game, huh?
Actually, it's exactly the same.
All right, you need to think really carefully about what you're doing right now.
Don't talk, officer! Come on, drop the gun or I'll kill him now. Game over.
There's 50 cops surrounding this building.
All for that skank arena. Isn't it being a whole...
Anita and Zoe in 2016 tried to make a play to, I don't know, start some UN organization that defends women from gamers or something stupid like that, but it didn't go through. But, I mean, Anita did manage to weasel her way onto, like, the trust and safety board at Twitter, so I guess Elon was right about censorship. Anita, by the way, is still doing the feminine frequency videos, except her channel literally gets the same amount of viewership as mine, which is absolutely nothing, with like 33 times the amount of subscribers that I have, which is insane. Zoe somehow finessed her way into DC Comics. Actually, that's not that crazy. It's just filled with woke garbage these days. But she got herself into DC Comics as a writer, writing a comic book called Goddess Mode. That was in 2018, and honestly, it got canceled after I think only 6 issues. And then in 2020, she signed a deal to Marvel. She jumped ship. She started writing an Addams Family reboot comic, as well as another one called like Fearless or something stupid like that. Nobody cares. Brianna Wu made a run for Congress in 2016 and lost by a landslide. She tried again in 2020, but gave up partway through due to the pandemic, allegedly. But honestly, it was probably just due to laziness, because it's a lot of work to try and win one of those things, and she thought she could just do it because trans, and it didn't work out for her.
I'm truly terrified of what's going to happen to women's rights under this president.
I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the...
I shouldn't hear more from Teen Vogue about women's rights than from the man that represents me in Congress.
Honestly, like most things in her life, she just expects all doors to open to her, and then when she actually has to do any work, she comes out with Revolution 60. And that's that. I mean, Gamergate kind of still lingers on to this day. Like every year, I'd say, there's some more articles about Gamergate and how Gamergate is like destroying Western ideologies. Honestly, it's like beating a dead horse at this point. Like, Gamergate died in 2014, and people keep trying to revive it and use it as like this scapegoat to blame all their political opponents for whatever. I don't even know. And Gamergate kind of just lingers on to this day. The war is over. The battle is fought. But it seems like once a year, it kind of just gets brought back into the zeitgeist with some revisionist history of what actually happened and what gamers even stood for in the first place. But perhaps that's the truth being written by the victors. Perhaps truth is a relic of the past and I still live in a bygone era. Perhaps the truth has always been this thin veil preventing me from diving into chaos. Okay, bye.